I've just been doing a little bit of a tidy up in here. I've got a lot of the tooling for the mill is stored on this set of shelves behind it, and given the narrow spaces, it's particularly difficult with the heavier stuff getting it out safely. And the bench has just been used for storage at the moment, so I'm going to move the tooling out onto the bench, possibly think about rearranging things underneath. But on the top here we've got a pair of Clarkson Mark I tool and cutter grinders that I picked up. One pretty cheap because it was missing its pedestal, and the other one because it didn't have much of the tooling with it. The first one had a lot of tooling, and they both got a lot of wear in them, particularly in the lead screw, and they've kind of been sitting for, well, I can't even remember exactly how long they've been sitting, but they need to get rebuilt and put into use. So did a little bit more stripping down of them. You can see that one's picked up a little surface rust. But I want to get one of them actually really nicely sorted out. So I needed to take the paint off, and the paint's pretty tough. So we'll go down the garden and look at my caustic tank. Well, I've got a couple more hens after the fox attack. Had a word with the guy at the poultry centre to see which breed was going to be enough to stand up to the blue here, who's a bit of a bully. So I've got a couple of cuckoos, and these guys will absolutely go mad for dandelion leaves. Watch your fingers. Just over here, got a solution in here of caustic soda, sodium hydroxide. Pretty strong solution, and I just leave stuff to sit in here for maybe a week, and it'll take just about any paint off. Make sure there's no aluminium parts in there, because they'll just completely dissolve, but the iron's fine. And we've got the base and the column from one of the units, and I just picked up a very light bit of surface rust this morning, so we'll take them down into the workshop, and they'll go in the blast cabinet, and get a coat of Lanagard while they wait to get painted. Mentioning the blast cabinet, this is my my homemade cabinet. I put this together using the sheet steel backs from Dexian shelving units. It's continuously a work in progress. I used to put things in through the window before I actually put a proper door on it. The window is still not a really permanent setup. You've got florist cellophane there as a sacrificial coating on the window. Anyway, the feature I specifically wanted to show you is down the bottom here, and this is the pickup line from the bottom of the hopper This is the air supply to the gun. That's a homemade splitter that somebody else had made that I've reused here. See, I've got an additional regulator, and that's set to probably 2 or 3 psi, and it feeds this piece, which is one of these, which is a thermocouple well, and it's used for fitting a temperature sensor into heating pipe. I had a big box of them that had been acquired from somewhere and weren't being used for anything at work, so it had a pipe thread to match this iron fitting, and also to match a barrel nipple. So I've got a 1/16 inch hole drilled in the end, and you can see it extends down to about this point, and it forms an additional venturi. So when I operate the foot pedal, I'm getting just a little bit of air in here, which is fluidizing the grit, and to a small extent blowing it up the pickup tube, and that's made a massive difference to the way the thing works. I've only got a 3 horsepower compressor. Well, I mean, I've also got a big 4 horsepower, but that's not installed yet. I mean, this Old Faithful I've had for about 25 years. But quite often I was finding I kept winding the pressure up to try and get the good pickup, and then you start shattering your grit and wearing it out, and it's particularly not good if you're using glass beads, because you don't want to be breaking them, you just want to be using them. And adding the additional system, which I've seen described as both as a auxiliary venturi and as an eductor, which is a way of moving powders around. I mean, I actually had a professional blast cabinet guy tell me, "Oh no, you don't want to use one of those on a small compressor. You'll use even more air." Well, my experience is I'm using less air, because I was winding the pressure down to perhaps only 60 psi, but getting a much more consistent output of grit and cleaning faster. So, very simple thing to add to most cabinets. You might have to make a piece, whereas I just happen to have one.